Okay, hello. Just kind of, I know it's last minute, but just kind of an exam final study guide might be able to help you on some of the questions to maybe to help you remember some of them. Again, when you see this, think about, and two, I'm just going to be very blunt and just kind of use generalizations type thing. So I hope everything comes out the right way. Last thing I should probably do is record it. So anyway, looking at this here, just think with this question, just think about, boys are going to do more with their hands and playing out there and running around. So that's going to help these gross motor skills improve. Those are going to improve faster. And then just remember down here that girls generally develop faster. They hit puberty before guys. They just tend to be more mature than guys. Growing up. So as far as you can think, they're gonna be the ones to walk first. Think about this one here. Again, this is best answer. Again, so think about like if you didn't do very well on the SAT, you may have a high GPA at Francis Marion, but you're probably having to work hard at it, as opposed to someone who just say they got pretty much every answer right. They may have the same GPA, but they're just not going to have to work as hard. So that's is a good way to think of this achievement test. So like the GRE, as far as getting to graduate school, my score I guess was a little bit lower than average, and I did fine, but I had to work hard. And there are some people that were in my classes and they made a very high grade, and they didn't have to work near as hard, and then they actually even made higher grades than I did. So that's kind of how that's how that works. So again, it's not going to it'll help determine like what the GPA is going to be, but it will help know the graduate rate, and but then the big thing is it's highly likely to it's going to determine how hard the individual is going to have to work in order to have success. So think about, as far as adapt and change, think plastic. You can melt plastic and change it around, and you can't do the other ones. This is an important question, because think about it. Again, just heart begin to beat. Just remember, like, this will be the first one. I won't change these. I might change the order around. Maybe have 18 going backwards. So that's that one. And then, so I think this is actually the wrong answer on this one. So if you have damage to the right side of the brain, this is the side that has more sadness in it. So if you damage it, it's actually going to be this answer right here. But I'm probably, just because of that, I probably won't answer it. But it's good. It is good to know. It's trust, mistrust. Just remember Erickson. Western. What we're talking about, Western, also means like Western Europe. Okay, that's where England and that type thing. And then Russia's East Europe. Yeah, think of, like, it's not really there anymore, but East Germany, where it's communist. So again, so the East doesn't like the West. So that's what they mean by Western. And then of course Western is, and of course with Western Europe, obviously the United States is way west of Europe. So that's why Vygotsky, that wasn't accepted. And then again, not all children with ADHD are hyperactive, but all the others are true. There's a a lot of it's just more concentration. Especially they used to have ADD and ADHD. Now they combine it all into one. So definitely this is not true for all the factors. So the best way to remember this, I think, is this distal. So digits. So that's your fingers. So there's another question in here that will talk about distal, and that's going out. I mean, moving out towards the limbs or something like that. And that's where you want to go distal. So just think, digits, limbs, that type thing. Now when it goes downward, so digits as far as fingers, okay? So fingers are out to, if you have your arms stretched out, it's going to go out, right? And this celicophical, I think I said that right actually for the first time in my life. But anyway, that's more downward. So I would just I would do it this way. Know this one, and then if it's not this one, and then puberty, and this is actually the word for when a woman starts her period. So I wouldn't put that answer down, which a lot of you did on your exam. And I didn't really recognize that word either. So you learn something new. So like I said, the girls are going to walk first. This external locus of control, think about it as far as the external things did this. So I got lucky. Hey, God was on my side. Things like that. The stars aligned. Things like that. All these you can see where they're just different. So I'll move this around somewhere, maybe. As far as I'll move this. It'll be moved around a little bit. So just don't remember that it's D. And then as far as pruning, think about as far as a tree, how this loss of synapses type thing. Think of that. Amygdala. Think about that. This one is what's your emotional response going to be if I ask you to spell amygdala in front of the entire class? Okay, that's where fear comes from, right? So and the reason you feel fear is because you have an amygdala. Okay, and then the cerebellum, think of like a antebellum dress or something, like, in Gone with the Wind or something, those big, like a bell. And I guess, having that big dress, it would take a lot of balance and coordination to be able to wear that. So that will help you with this one. Could change this around a little bit. Corpus callosum, this is going to be your left and right. That's your lateralization. Hippocampus, think about a hippopotamus. They have good memory. So that's where the hippocampus. So that's where it would be a memory thing right there. Frontal lobe's going to be executive stuff like planning. Being able to plan and organize is going to get you out to the front. Parietal is that's going to be like as far as spacing, being able to depth perception, stuff like that. So right here, just remember the big thing is, I'll talk about it several times here, but of course Piaget, that he is definitely the one that believed in these stages, and it's more like how old the person is. And Vygotsky, he was the one that didn't really care so much about age. It was just about improving things. So again, like Piaget's got the stage where the kid, the object permanence recognizes where the keys are gone, or once you hide the keys, the kid thinks the keys are gone. The infant thinks the keys are gone forever. But so that's Piaget. And then Vygotsky says, think about it. You can probably train that kid. If you do it enough, they're going to realize that the keys are not gone forever. So this is Vygotsky's type thing. But again, the problem with Vygotsky is, it doesn't really give you any idea of when to do what, that type thing. Where it's nice, Piaget kind of gives you an idea of where the kid should be at that time, I guess is a good way to think about it. Kahneman, he's my favorite author as far as psychology papers. He's a professor at Princeton over the psychology department. And Erickson, remember, he's the one that does the trust-mistrust initiative and Erickson, I think of like a Viking. So remember, the Vikings had a lot of fights. And again, truth versus mistrust. Yeah, it might help you with that one. So then gender differences in motor skills best explained by it's going to be about everything you can think of. So, again, it's kind of not the easiest question type thing. So I just remember those. The pre-kindergarten, we talked about this, I know, in my day class, not sure about the night class, but we, again, Now, granted, I think the second grade is where the student will have a lot of language and disorders here in South Carolina. I guess maybe it's the first grade, and actually that's why I didn't even put the first grade in here. So with pre-kindergarten, that's when it should be. I think about, South Carolina again just doesn't have the money for schools like Connecticut. Now in Connecticut, where they've got the most money, I think pretty much in the country, those kids they're getting it done at pre-kindergarten. So is a good way to look at that. And again, first grade isn't even an option, so you can't really say that. So, and there are a lot of kids getting screened at pre-kindergarten. So, all right. So again, remember, internal locus of control is going to be the answer there, because you're kind of in control of your own destiny. But again, if you're kind of in control of everything, and somebody were to die or something catastrophic, you're going to take the blame for that. Where somebody with external, where it's like, the external factors, that's just the way it is. Everything happens for a reason. God has a plan, that type thing. It's a lot. A person with external locus of control does a lot better with catastrophic events than the internal kind of controlling type person. Just because you have internal locus of control doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be in as far as being controlling. So, and I just making sure I'm making noise here. Okay, I am making noise, so that's good. Okay. Phenotype, genotype. I haven't really felt a great way to this. Again, I think in genes. I guess. Maybe you think I'm trying to trick you. I try to help you on this. So, I remember on this test, I went ahead and did this because it's so tough to tell the difference, and I never really gave a good way to do it. So, if it says genes, there's genotype. It's right there. And then, if it doesn't have genes, I'd put phenotype. So genes, of course, genetics, that's going to be the, what the person inherits, right? For genetics, think of that. And then phenotype, that's going to be the expression. Unfortunately, I don't even know the root word of pheno, so I apologize there. So inside to out, so, out to the fingers. There's where the distal comes into play right there, right? I wouldn't pick parallel parking. Habituation, that's where, again, if you're hearing a sound, the sound of a clock ticking, after a while you won't really realize that. Your brain, it doesn't pull in everything. But anyway, so that's called habituation. We're just that repeated exposure, and then, the child won't respond to it as much. And we use that, and I use that as far as dealing with when I deal with trauma, people that have severe trauma, working with them, we'll reintroduce the situation and let them tell the story over and over, and kind of getting used to that, and it helps the acceptance part of it. 6 to 7 years is the right year as far as the person is playing sports. Again, just puberty is a major time. There's so many changes. We didn't really realize it so much maybe when we were going through it growing up, but you kind of but then you look at your cousins or whatever, if they're going through it. It's kind of like if you don't see them in a while, they'll just literally, when that puberty really hits, it's like you won't really know who they are. Sometimes, not all the time, but that's just a major. So much stuff is going on in the body. So as far as this accommodation and assimilation, trying to remember the difference of that. Think of this as far as think as far as she wants to say horse with stripes, right? That's just making things similar to make sense for her. So then when she has to take in, hey, it's zebra, I got to change this word. The person has to be accommodating. So that might be a good way to remember that, because you're not trying to make it. You can see here where she's trying to make it similar here, right? So horse with stripes, okay, well, that's a zebra. That's similar. as opposed to accommodating. So then we've got the of course that adolescents need to sleep more than adults. So that would show that again, as far as with the schools, it would actually be better to start them later. Of course, too, if you start it later, they're just going to stay up later, so does it really matter? So that's, of course, I can't. And that's kind of the thing while we do research papers. So like what I just said, that was taken into account, because when you do a study, you're actually, it's called the null hypothesis. So like when you're writing your papers, we didn't get into this, you should be writing why your paper's going to be, you're looking for evidence to show that your thesis is not true, is the way that these research, that's why you want to use peer-reviewed articles. And all your peer-reviewed articles, they did it with a null hypothesis, where they were actually trying to prove the other end of their paper. Is how it's written. So again, if you're trying to prove the other end and your idea is still right, naturally that's going to stand out over the years. So then as far as bulimia, I think 100% of the people got that right. John Watson was the person that came up with classical conditioning. And then I tried to put loud, startling noise. Think of classical music. Again, just to kind of help you when I'll say, loud, startling noise. And this will definitely going to be on, this will be on both of them, because I really wanted you to, I don't know if I did a good job of it or not, but I really wanted you to understand classical conditioning. Well, really, I was looking more for this one right here, because that's where you do a lot of shaping, operant instrumental conditioning. But anyway, classical, that's where, you can train, like, when you hear a bell, if we had bells at Francis Marion, if you heard that bell, what would you do? You're trained, you're conditioned to get up, or move or do something like that. So here's the one about being similar. Again, you can kind of see where, George is trying to put the zebra. So that's similar. Probably what will happen is probably one test will have one might have the other on that. So they probably both won't be on there. So make sure you kind of know. Just figure out how to maybe understand one to get the other might help you. Just know that, if you come in with a big old bag of marijuana, you're probably going to get in trouble. I think a lot of people don't believe that this is, illegal. And if you walk around, I'm pretty sure if you walk around with a 10-pound bag of marijuana in Colorado and, start letting people, and then seeing if anybody wants to buy it for a couple dollars out in the street, you're probably going to get in trouble, is a way to look at illicit, being illicit. And again, just research it. And I know, just trust me. I guess trust me on that. I didn't know that marijuana and alcohol are probably the most dangerous of all these. Benzodiazepine, this is actually alcohol in a pill, but anyway, but cocaine and pain pills, that's nothing. Somebody comes in, you got to be careful. The reason they're dangerous is the things that are the additives that are in there. But I mean, as far as like what it does to the body, I mean, marijuana affects it more than cocaine, believe it or not. It's just, I mean, this is from, again, just again, I didn't believe this either, but that's just, talking about, scientific research. Not to say it's safe to have cocaine and opiates, but anyway, I just think that marijuana, because it's all these strains and additives, it's actually a lot more dangerous than what you would think. And then of course alcohol is the worst of all of them. It kills everything. So there you go. And again, when I'm talking about this stuff, is this every once in a while? Especially with alcohol, I mean, every, once, twice a week after you're 21. Really, you shouldn't start drinking until you're over 25. And I wish I could edit this out. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm going to get quick. I'm going to go to this. You've got stuff to do, but you will remember this answer, I guess. So anyway, placebo. When it says the real thing, okay, who's getting the experiment? Are you getting the experiment? Are you doing the experiment? If you get a placebo, which is nothing, you're not in the you're not. It's a way to look at it. So in fact, think about it. I wouldn't consider this person really in the experiment, but the real thing. Now that person is definitely in the experimental, and then the other one is control. This is a kind of wasn't designed to be a trick question because it was as clear as day in the book, but there's a lot of things in the book too. This hands-on real world, you'd think that that's what you're going to encounter, but it's not. It's still, kind of back to the basics type thing is what you might, is what you're probably going to see, in schools. So again, the point of this is as ways of thinking and talking about child development, which are best considered in combination with each other. So that's why we do Vygotsky and Piaget. So again, if you've got a 3-year-old and the parent is trying to teach the kid chess, well, that they're probably not going to have the mental ability to successfully master chess at 3, but the Vygotsky's thing, they can get a lot better at it. They might be able to play. They might be able to surpass some of those stages. But again, so that's why we've got these different and kind of opposite things working together. And what this course is designed to do is to introduce those. And when you hear something that's quote new unquote that you'll hear down the road, it'll probably be based off of Vygotsky or Piaget usually. So again, just these are the recessive genes here. It's that I don't even think it's on here, but it was Huntington's disease. The people that stayed for it's Huntington's disease. The people that stayed for the review the other night. So again, as far as when you think about Piaget, think about how the child adapts as far as assimilate, accommodate, that type thing, and then organizing. Those are those two things there. So then as far as, regular breaks, like when it's probably better, I would kind of forget, but like when we had cell phone breaks, and again, it's kind of one of those things too, I kind of take the blame, but if somebody would have mentioned, hey, we need a cell phone break, obviously I would have given to you because that's what we talked about. But taking that break, whether it's elementary or now, is going to help, it's just going to help the person as far as cognitively do the demanding task, because that break kind of allows the brain to rest for a while and get some things off it, is a way to look at that. So this is part 1, and I'll see you in a bit. I'll see you for part 2.